Basket Case is a slasher film. It is a cult film, I guess, now because it's lesser known. This one is about Duane. He is a nice young man who walks around with a large wicker basket, and he moves to New York City to stay in a motel for a couple days for something to do. We find out Duane's terrible secret. He actually used to be a Siamese twin with a grotesque lump called Belial on his side, and it killed their mother during birth, and they were forced to separate. However, Belial survived, and Duane took care of him, and they basically have come to New York to seek revenge on the doctors who did the operation that separated them. So this is a super low-budget film, very grungy looking because it was filmed, late 80s New York. It is like super low budget, like 35 grand, I think. So this movie has the unintentional camp factor because, like, there's a little bit of stop motion in there, puppetry, prosthetics, a lot of the kill scenes are just, someone throwing a prop at a dude's face and then him screaming and then, red stuff blowing out everywhere. It almost reminded me of the Evil Dead movies. Very low budget affair, but still a lot of fun, very twisted concept, a lot of talking and weirdos hanging around the motel room for lots of basket attacks. And the movie definitely isn't like super amazing, but it was still a lot of fun, because it's got that low budget kind of indie charm, and it's definitely got some cool, special effects and everything. So Basket Case is an interesting little film. I give it a 6 out of 10. Basket Case 2 is the sequel to Basket Case. After the events of the first film, Duane and Belial are in the hospital, and they escape. They've become sort of celebrities overnight, and they escape the hospital and are found by a woman nicknamed Dr. Freak. She basically saves them and takes them to a wayward home of misfit, deformed people. So it's like a home for them. They don't really explain how that happens, but the attic's full of like freaks, even though they are gentle souls. Some of them, know how to sing or write poetry. They are rejected by society because of the way they look. So Belial ends up loving the place because it's a place where there's a lot of deformed people like him. However, Duane is not having any of it because he looks normal. He thinks he can join society and wants to join society with the other normal-looking girl at the wayward house. However, tabloid reporters are sniffing around. They want that big scoop. They want that photo. So they start, it's the word, they start snooping around and trying to get the scoop. And this is supposed to be a slasher movie. It's described as a slasher movie on Wikipedia. There's only like a small handful of kills. This is more of a creepy kind of like bizarre sequel that really just goes all in on the world building, the character development. They really actually care about the mental state of Duane and Belial and treat them as characters. The first movie is very schlocky and low budget. This one definitely blows up the budget a little bit and can do a little bit more with the story. And it's more bizarre for sure. I really like this one. This one was just a sequel that's superior than the first. Definitely leaves an impression. I really enjoyed this one a lot more, so I give Basket Case 2 a 7 out of 10. Basket Case 3, The Progeny, is the third and final film of the Basket Case trilogy. Now, I didn't realize how much I would enjoy this series, actually. The first one's kind of like an indie darling, made super low budget, very campy, schlocky, and fun. Second one's completely different in another way, and so is the third one. This one takes place several months after the events of the second film. Granny Ruth has kept Duane in a straitjacket after the events of the second film, and Belial he's sort of fighting, has a fight with Duane. They're sort of fighting. They won't talk to each other. However, Belial's girlfriend is pregnant, and they're going to have a baby, a little deformed baby, or maybe a normal baby, we'll see. But basically, Granny Ruth loads up everyone onto a bus, and they go to a small town to meet her friend Glenn, who's a surgeon who's going to help with the birth of the child. And Duane gets into shenanigans too. However, they run afoul of the small-minded sheriff and the sheriff's spoiled daughter and the deputies who wish to make a buck because they are still technically wanted, and that sort of spurs on the violence. So this movie's a lot different from the other two. This one's not really a slasher. There are deaths in it, but they're done comedic style. This entire movie feels more of an absurdist comedy than an actual horror film. I didn't really like the tone, to be honest. I wanted something more fun and schlocky, but this one's more of a comedy. All the deaths are actually kind of comedic with really over-the-top gruesome effects. The story's even got this sort of like weird sort of comedic tone. There's a scene in a fast food restaurant. There's also talk show segments. There's Granny Ruth checking on all of the different freaks in the bus, and it goes on for a while. And there's also takes you for a loop for the ending too. So this movie is definitely a lot different. Probably the highest budgeted film of the three, but it's definitely running out of ideas. And this series, it didn't go on with 4 and 5 and a remake or anything, because I think they finally found a way to just sort of end things. So Basket Case 3, The Progeny, is my least favorite of the three, and I give it a 4 out of 10.